You ever lie awake in the middle of the night, heart pounding, just thinking about the fact that one day you won't exist anymore? Or worse, the thought of losing your parents, the people you love most, forever, with no chance to say what you really feel one last time. There's an invisible force quietly shaping how you think, how you judge other people, and even how entire societies behave. Psychologists call it terror management theory, the idea that humans are uniquely aware that we're going to die, and that this awareness has been quietly driving our behavior for thousands of years. Back in 1973, anthropologist Ernest Becker laid it out in his book, The Denial of Death. He argued that because we know we're going to die, we built massive psychological systems to protect ourselves from that terror. We cling to cultural worldviews and self-esteem, our beliefs, our groups, our achievements, our families. So we can feel like we matter, like we're part of something that will outlast us. In 1989, researchers ran a chilling experiment. They asked judges to write about their own death, then gave them a case about a woman arrested for prostitution, and asked them to set bail. The judges, who had just thought about dying, set bail almost 10 times higher than the judges who hadn't. They punished her more harshly, simply because death had been brought to mind. This wasn't a one-off result. Hundreds of studies since then, across many countries, have shown the same pattern. When people are reminded of death, they defend their worldview more aggressively, favor their own group more strongly, and become harsher toward anyone who challenges what they believe. You've probably wondered why societies get more polarized after tragedies or terrorist attacks. Why people suddenly rally behind strong, charismatic leaders when they feel threatened. Why we hold so tightly to religion, nationality, or personal success. In many cultures, including Vietnam, the fear of losing parents and elders runs especially deep because ancestor worship and family duty serve as powerful forms of symbolic immortality. All of it traces back to the same root, the fear of death. We need to feel like we're part of something bigger and more permanent than ourselves. That's why people are willing to fight, hate, or even sacrifice themselves for their beliefs. But here's the part almost no one talks about. What happens if the main source of that fear, death from aging and age-related disease, is mostly removed? What if people could live for hundreds or even thousands of years? Or exist in a completely different form? What would happen to the entire system we've built to manage our fear of death? Scientists like Aubrey de Grey, Ray Kurzweil, and George Church believe we could reach something called longevity escape velocity between the 2030s and 2040s. That's the point where medical progress starts adding more healthy years than the time that's actually passing. In other words, the therapies keep getting better faster than you age. De Grey explains that aging isn't some built-in program. It's the gradual buildup of damage across 7 main categories. Loss of cells, buildup of senescent cells, mitochondrial mutations, stiffening of the extracellular matrix, and different types of protein accumulation inside and outside cells, plus mutations in the cell nucleus. Once we can repair all 7 types of damage faster than they accumulate, we cross that escape velocity. Early therapies might only add 20 or 30 years, but during those extra decades, science develops the next generation of treatments. You keep getting the newer therapies, and you keep gaining more time. That's what live long enough to live forever actually means. By the 22nd and 23rd centuries, the technology could include medical nanobots that repair damage at the cellular level, comprehensive gene therapy that stops aging at its source, easy organ replacement, and hybrid bio-digital consciousness, brains directly connected to AI, or even full mind uploading into digital form. At that point, death from old age and disease would become extremely rare. People would have what's called functional immortality. You could still die from accidents, or by choice. But you wouldn't be forced to die just because your body wore out. Now bring that back to terror management theory. If the fear of dying from aging drops dramatically, people wouldn't need to cling so tightly to their old psychological shields. We might become less extreme, less hostile toward people who believe different things, and more capable of long-term thinking. But here's where it gets intense. When those old shields weaken, new fears rush in to take their place. What if living for centuries gets boring? What if uploading your mind means you stop being you? What does meaning even look like when there's no biological deadline anymore? The old fear of death shrinks, but the fear of meaninglessness and lost identity could become much louder and more painful. The entire system humans use to manage existential fear would have to be rewritten. For centuries, death has been the ultimate deadline forcing people to act. It creates urgency. It makes us love harder, chase dreams more aggressively, and try to leave something behind before it's too late. Remove that deadline, and humans will have to manufacture their own urgency. People will have to ask themselves every day, what am I actually living for? Who do I love? What do I want to leave behind after hundreds of years? This isn't a small problem. It's a full-scale crisis of meaning at the species level. And this time, we won't be able to hide behind the old defenses. We'll have to face the biggest question head-on. What does it mean to exist? When existence no longer has a built-in end, family structures would change in ways that are hard to imagine. Someone could have 10 generations alive at the same time, all biologically young and healthy. Grandparents, parents, children, and great-grandchildren could all interact across centuries. But have you ever thought about what family conflict lasting 200 years would actually feel like? Or what it would take to keep intimacy alive with the same person for 300 years? We'd need entirely new skills. How to resolve conflicts that stretch across centuries. How to keep relationships fresh over that kind of timescale. And how to create shared meaning when death no longer resets the clock. Relationships wouldn't get a natural refresh from death anymore. We'd have to actively create novelty and purpose every single day. And that's a heavy responsibility. And here's the question that matters most. If you were living in the year 3000, when death from aging was no longer a real threat, how would you choose to live? Who would you love? What would you chase? And when death is no longer the limit, how would you personally define what makes your life meaningful? The future might not be the end of fear. It might just be the shift from fearing death to fearing a life without meaning. And in that space, every single one of us would have to redefine what existence actually means for ourselves, possibly many times over a very, very long life. The year 3000 might still feel far away, but the direction is becoming clear. Longevity escape velocity isn't a guaranteed promise, but it's a realistic possibility if we keep investing seriously in the science. The real question isn't whether we'll reach it. It's who we'll become once we do. If this made you think, like the video right now and drop a comment. If you were living in the year 3000, how would you choose to live your life? Subscribe if you want to keep exploring the deep psychology of what it means to be human and what it might mean in the future. Share this with someone who's afraid of dying or searching for real meaning. I'll see you in the next one.